I haven't shared much lately. I apologize for that. Honestly, I've been involved in a number of really exciting projects that have taken up the bulk of my time, as well as finally starting to get back to doing player evals for both MLB all the way college down to junior. I've been quite busy. The upside is I have a lot of interesting data and case study stuff that once I get a little break here, I'll be recording some fun case studies looking at players and some of especially the ones that I've been working with since the pandemic or even before, and marking progress, but also talking about specific areas of training, the types of things that are being done, and why it's showing to be successful. But real quick, I just thought I would share this. So I'm doing some stuff for an NBA team on shot mechanics, and one of the things that I started to look at for them was the kinematics of the shot dynamic with respect to the track of the arm, and then those arm characteristics and kinematics resulting in certain ball kinematics. And so one of the things that we're looking at is how say for example, shooting wrist tracks relative both displacement and speed relative to the basketball's displacement and speed, and how those trajectories match up. And I'm looking at exit velocities, exit trajectories of the basketball, launch angles, things like that. As I was doing that, I was doing a number of pitching reports today, and I used part of the pitching program to calculate some of the basketball stuff. So the data was in there, so I grabbed it real quick and took a sidebar break from the evals, from the pitching kinematic evals, to look a little bit at wrist versus wrist versus ball dynamic. And this is just one player, minor leaguer, not ideal by any stretch. And in fact, I have not looked at this myself in any real way. I look at wrist speed all the time, but I've never looked at wrist speed relative to ball launch or ball delivery dynamics. Of course, my setup isn't great, isn't tuned for tracking the ball long distances, but I can track the ball while it's in the pitcher's hand and then a little bit outside of the hand as it's delivered towards the plate. So all I was going to do today, just to get you thinking and maybe stir some conversation down the road. Here's a pitcher, like I said, minor league guy, who what we're looking at is the dark line is the wrist speed broken down into its XYZ components, and the pink line or the magenta line is the ball speed broken into XYZ components. So if we were to consider the XYZ first, for a right-handed pitcher, X would be directly towards the catcher, but parallel. Okay, Y. So the mound is like this, obviously. Y is going to be up, so positive Y up, positive X towards the catcher, and then positive Z would be, if you're standing behind the pitcher, it would be from left to right. Okay, so towards the right-handed hitter, away from the left-handed hitter. So okay. So that's our dynamic here. So, and what I've marked on this graph for you to take a look at is foot contact, first meaningful foot contact, maximum external rotation, last frame that the ball was fully in the hand of the pitcher, and then the first frame that the ball was fully out of the pitcher's hand. So you can see that from roughly here to here, the ball is being released. It comes out of the grip and starts to roll off the fingertips until it is finally in the air. Now, what you can see with X, and this is our speed towards the pitcher, or towards the catcher, is the wrist reaches its maximum speed of about 60 miles an hour right around the last time the ball is really fully in the hand and there's a good solid grip on the baseball. As you can see, what ends up happening, and even in this zone, what's happening is there's wrist flexion occurring. So you're starting a wrist flexion action, and you can see that as that occurs, the arm is actually going to decelerate in the direction towards, although it's potentially accelerating or maintaining speed overall as a resultant movement, but in just the X direction is decelerating considerably. As it does that, it flings the baseball away. The baseball, when it as it comes out of the fingertips, it rolls off the fingertips, is going to be at about 100 miles an hour. And then it quickly decelerates to about 89 as it starts to come out and go towards to the catcher. I could only track it for a small bit, but you get the idea. So to me, this is an interesting dynamic. Now, what's even more interesting to me is the up and down speed, in and out speed, or cross body speed, because those are going to have, and this is what we're doing with basketball, where we're looking at how the arm tracks, how the wrist tracks, and how those velocities match up with how the ball is being launched towards the basket. Okay. And so, and actually I did a lot of this stuff back in the day for Mike Young for track and field for shot put. And so, what's interesting now is let's take a look at our Y speed. So in our Y speed, what's interesting is, you have, so Y positive is going to be up, Y negative is going to be down. Okay. So what's interesting is, this upward speed, actually, you go into this little bit of downward speed as they load, right? So the arm at foot contact is starting to come up, and then it's being loaded, right? So it's going to go into a little bit of a negative as the elbow comes forward and you start to go into external rotation. It's going to have a little bit of a downward, and then before it peaks out into the maximum external rotation, the arm is actually now lifting upwards, right? Because the elbow is going into abduction, you're having some horizontal adduction, and you're going to get an upward speed. The wrist speed occurs just before maximum external rotation, but the upward ball speed is going to occur essentially at maximum external rotation as the arm is actually moving upward. From there, you're going to lose upward speed considerably as you come through. Now, what's interesting to me is that in this particular case, you have quite a bit of downward arm speed, but you have essentially neutral, if anything, maybe a little bit of upward speed as the ball rolls off the fingertips and kind of comes up with a little bit of, not a whole lot, less than 10 miles an hour of this over probably about 5 miles an hour, but you see that little bit of upward trajectory while you have a considerable amount of downward trajectory or downward speed with the arm. The last thing we can look at here is the across body speed. So the positive speed is going to be moving from, like I said, left to right if you're standing behind the pitcher, first base to third base side. So you can see as you go into your external rotation and then as you start to peak out, your arm, the ball and the arm are actually moving very considerably, a good amount of speed from left to right when you're looking from behind the pitcher. Okay, that peaks out at about maximum external rotation, and then as you're going towards your release, you'll see now you're going to start to slow down that left to right, and the arm is going to start to move around the body right to left for a right-handed pitcher. What you see is a considerable amount, and again, this is just one pitch and one pitcher, and I don't have normals for this, and I haven't fully investigated yet, but so you'll see now you have a lot of cross-body speed with this particular pitcher. You have a lot of cross-body speed with the arm as the arm works around right to left around the body as you're releasing the ball. So there's a considerable amount of change in that speed from the time that you're fully in contact with the baseball, starting to wrist flex, and then fully letting go of the baseball as you're flexed and it rolls off the fingertips. And what's interesting to me is as the ball starts to come out of the hand, it actually has quite a bit of, from the release point, quite a bit of, I mean, not a ton, 10 miles an hour isn't a ton, but it has quite a bit of left to right speed until as the ball starts to get out and sort of steady at around 89 miles an hour going towards the plate, you get more neutral. So as the ball came out of the hand, it definitely moved right or left to right, even though the arm was moving right to left. And I don't mean moving, I mean speed trajectory. So it doesn't have to be a lot of displacement to create the speed. It can be very minimal displacement. It's just the speed of the ball coming out of the hand. So this tells you something a little bit about how the ball is being let go. I'm sure if you match this to like Rapsodo numbers or whatever, you see spin rates, the spin rates would be related to how the person is letting go of the baseball. What's interesting for me on this is that this is a way to then match kinematics. So we can look deeper to the impact of someone who, say, over elbow flexes, over forearm supinates, or someone who is overly horizontally abducted. or any number of different things. Someone who has too much abduction or not enough abduction at load points at the shoulder. So all these little things can then be attributed down the chain to, torso rotation, lower body dynamic, lead side stability, lead side dynamic, lead hip articulation, all those kinds of things. So I think with reverse engineering this dynamics from coming backwards into the kinematics like this, we're going to understand better what kinematics are impacting performance and how specifically they're impacting ball characteristics or ball launch characteristics. And again, like I said, this is what we're actually doing with some NBA basketball stuff right now, and it's stuff I've done in the past with a shot put. So it's interesting stuff, and I'm very excited about it. And I just thought I would share it. Again, this is a total teaser. It's one guy. It's stuff that I actually wrote the software for basketball. But I thought I would do a quick pitch evaluation since the data is sitting there, and it's quite interesting. And like I said, my calibration is not set up to track the baseball very far out of the hand, but it's good for a little bit out of the hand. And so I'm very confident of the span that I'm showing you, that those ball numbers are accurate and reflective of what we're seeing. I think the speed trajectories, and we actually do this now. We're doing a lot of this with hitting, where we're looking at the speed trajectory in 3 dimensions of the bat relative to exit velocity or exit dynamics. So now I can calculate ball launch dynamics again for just a little bit off the bat, but you get launch dynamics relative to bat dynamics, and those dynamics are directly related to all the kinematics and kinetics that produce them. So it's pretty exciting stuff.